Oh, Christine. I basically just woke up, and already Christine has done a deep dive and stalked somebody we know, but just someone
for
who is
good
in,
reason. It wasn't
for good
just
reason.
like to shit on them. We were trying to get to the bottom of a social situation.
of something. And you know what? As I said 10 minutes ago, I'll say it again. You give Christine 30 seconds and a Wi-Fi connection and anything's possible. And
The Wi-Fi connection is key. Otherwise, I really am just playing Best Fiends and like doing nothing good with my time.
anyway, that's all we've done so far.
That's all we've done today.
That's about it. In the time I've been conscious, that was the only successful thing that's happened so far. And it wasn't even me, it was Christine. So, Christine, what's going on, Home Slice? I miss you.
I miss you too. I'm loving your fuchsia lighting. It's very, I don't know, trendy. I like it.
You know, I don't know if I like it, but I was like, these babies change color.
I
so
actually really like it. I'm usually not like a hot pink kind of gal, but oh look, I'm wearing a hot pink on my shirt.
Today's feeling pink.
We're vibing.
She's a little pinky. I don't know. I was feeling I'm in a hermit mode, I think, because I know we're about to go back out on the road. And so I'm feeling a little not wanting to feel like there's daylight anywhere near me. So I picked a moody color.
I like it. And I'm sorry that you have to fly. I have to drive, which I feel like there's pros and cons. But
yeah, I'm almost happier to fly.
Yeah, I feel like it depends. We have a toddler.
Are you driving with a baby? Okay, yes.
Yeah.
So, yes.
Help me.
Wow. By the way, my mother has volunteered herself to ride with us from Raleigh to Charlotte. Did you know this?
Oh,
I know.
How would I know that? But I love that you asked me. Thank you for asking.
Because honestly, with her behavior, she could just
You know what? There have
So-
been times where I learned information before you and it pertained to you and not me. So I guess that's a fair question. Yeah.
Yeah. So I am doing my darndest to make sure that's a clear, firm no.
Just tell I got it.
What?
Call on me. I'm gonna say
She's gonna hear this, by the way. Just so you know. Yeah, she
okay.
listens to the show.
She does?
I know. I don't. Well,
Wait.
this will be a test. Maybe she's been lying this whole time.
Okay, Linda, here's a secret passcode. No. What you need to tell her is that we're driving say, oh, we just rented the cheapest car from budget rental we can find. And then she's not going to want to ride with us.
She'll be like, absolutely not.
Yeah, she's going to be like, I'm going to upgrade you to the SUV. And then I'll go with her.
You know, she would do that to get herself in the car. She'd be like, I'll pay for the luxury one.
We got to use this to our advantage.
No, I guess she's gonna be in Raleigh, but she doesn't have a way to get to Charlotte. But like, girl, you could get to Charlotte. Like, she literally works in Charlotte sometimes. So like, I'm like, you know how to get there.
She's like, help! I don't know how. You're like,
poor me,
a businesswoman.
And she was like, what do you think about me riding with you? I literally, by the way, this is after years of me saying, before a show, I am. Basically, I go nonverbal. I'm fully catatonic.
You're catatonic.
Not only am I not fun, I truly I might as well be a mannequin. I don't know how to speak. I barely know how to breathe. Like, I'm not only a bad time. Like, I'm fully like not there. And my mom still is like, well, how about I just ride with you? And we think she's gonna also be silent in the car? No, like,
I
she's
love
gonna.
That means Eva. Well, I mean,
Well, then that means the two of you have to carry it on your back. And I'm like, no,
I told you, I'm bringing my child. I'm going on my own ride. I was like, we've already had this conversation on Slack. I am not attending with you and Eva in the car because I have a toddler. So good luck with that. Eva's probably having a panic attack somewhere.
It's okay, Eva. I'm texting my mom now. I just we'll have it figured out by the time we get there. But she's really I'm sure she was just double checking before she like made other plans.
Ride. Like,
I get it,
carpool.
but also I don't get it. She's never seen me that fully like unhinged, and like I don't
Oh,
need.
maybe now's the time.
Yeah, right. The 24 hours in me being on a stage. That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
So
Why not?
anyway,
Surreal
that's
you. I've had to deal with it for years.
I know, and God bless you, but that's a special little personality trait only you get to see, I think. So we'll keep my mom away from that.
That makes me
Anyway,
feel special.
that's let's make that why I drink this week.
I
Christine,
love that. That's a good reason.
and you?
Oh, and I'm drinking a cold brew out of this Glear's Geta Fest mug.
Love a Geta.
Yeah, Glear's Geta 75 years celebration of Geta. Drinking a cold brew. I have another ghost update.
Oh, wow.
Well,
okay.
I feel like
what?
I feel like it is, but maybe it's not that interesting. But it did that thing to me where I felt like the like the chill rushed through my body. So I feel like it's interesting, but maybe it's not. Tell me if it's boring and I'll stop talking about it. But I say to the person who gives us regular updates on their hair and glasses situation. So I don't know why I'm asking for your blessing, but
you say to the person who like has mastered the eye roll every half a second. Yeah.
So I remember when I was talking about going through the old records and the census records and stuff, and how that's my new hobby that I've already kind of abandoned, but it's fine. I was going through a deep dive one night, and remember that story I told? It was like months ago now, after Halloween, where I was standing in a foyer. I don't know.
Technically, they're the same, but regionally, people say different things. So you're not wrong either way.
Cool. I'll say both. And we were standing by the front door, and my mom said, "Oh, doesn't this remind you of Halloween's growing up?" Because we just handed out all the candy. Leona was in bed, and I said, "Man, I just feel like this house is so like happy at Halloween or something. I don't know." And then I felt somebody like hold my arm, but in like in a nice way, like in a aw, you know. And so, I don't know, that always stuck with me. And then I was looking through old newspapers and I found an article about my house, and it said that this was the home of the Halloween parades and Halloween parties.
Shut the fuck up, Christine.
I know. And I was like, wait, what? So I read this article, and it was like from like 1930 something. And it was like, oh, all the kids gathered at blank blank avenue, whatever, and everybody, you know, was dressed up, and they had a bit like all the kids had a big fun Halloween, and the parents watched the little Halloween parade through the house. And I was
well,
like,
you know
oh
what that
my
means.
Gosh. What?
You have to relaunch it to keep the house happy.
Literally nothing would make me happier.
I'm just saying.
Halloween in my house.
Hold on. Send me that article when you can.
I know. Okay, I gotta send it because, like, obviously I can't post it because it's gonna share my personal information. But I'm gonna send it to you because I had this moment of like, oh my gosh, and it might. I mean, obviously, it might just be a big coincidence, but it was like such a bizarre, fun fact, even if it is just a coincidence. But yeah, I'll send that to you. It was.
That's amazing. You
it
know,
was very sweet.
And you know they gotta be booming for it to have made the papers. Like
Are you sure? Because next to it was like Henrietta visited from St. Louis this morning, and I was like, okay.
Well, I guess it was easier to get in the paper when there was like 100 people in the town
in Newport, Kentucky.
When it really told you everyone's fucking news. Well, because so you know my ancestry kick, but
oh yeah, you inspired me famously.
If that's the one way I'll positively inspire you, I'm so happy about it. Because
it is. Check.
There's my gammy, her side of the family, when I went through a really specific spiral on ancestry after she died. And so I was trying to find out all that I could. And her name was Carol, but she was like one of like 3 or 4 Carols, and each one, as I always thought my gammy was like, you couldn't be a cooler, sweeter, nicer woman. But with every generation, apparently they were nicer and nicer and lovelier and lovelier. And my gammy could sing. Everyone knew her for her singing. And I guess she got that from, you know, her dad's side of the family. And I found in a bunch of newspaper articles that like her ancestors would always throw like raging block parties every week where they would just all get together by the piano and sing. And like everyone knew that like they were like if you come to this person's house, they had parties until like 4 a.m. where everyone was like dancing in the living room because they were all singing together. It was very wild. I was like, so I don't know. I'm just saying I don't know how that came out. I was trying to relate and then just kind of weirdly bragged on my grandmother. But
no, I listen. Yeah, everyone's grandma deserves a little bragging every now and then. Not everyone's, but most people.
But I'm just saying, maybe it was easier to get into the newspaper, but based off of what I know, it seems like you had to have like a fucking great party to get mentioned at all.
But like we have great parties well, I'm not in the fucking newspaper for it.
Yeah, but that's because like there's significantly more people in your town these days. I think back then it might have been like, oh, everyone knows everyone because, you know, no one really leaves, you know?
Yeah, no, I love reading those old papers. I mean, my brother had an entire podcast about it where they would read old newspapers and it like old classifieds, and it was so fun. I really missed that show. It was called Human Seeking Human, shout out. But he would read like these, and they would go down these like deep dives where they would follow one person like way back and like follow them through the newspapers. Like if they were like, I don't know, selling some miracle cure or whatever, they would like follow them from town to town to see like where they had gone. It's just so cool. And so now I finally followed in your
I love
footsteps.
Creeping on people.
It feels like you're just like peeping in their lives, you know, from way back
like
when.
How you use the internet to find people that are currently alive. I just
and what they're up to. Yeah.
Me and Zandy apparently just do that in our free time for dead people.
But now it's like I'm like way on board now. I'm like, okay, you guys showed me the way. Now it's my favorite thing. Like it's so fun to just
It's a blast.
Especially if it's like, oh, this address, and then I like look out the street and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm looking at it. But I have a weird thing about history like that. So
well, the best part is when you combine your newspapers.com account with your Ancestry account, which they're merged already, by the way.
They're expensive, by the way, but I was like, okay, year-long membership, click.
Well, because if you do that, then as you're rabbit holing on one person, all it takes is one newspaper article to say like, and then his brother, this person, and then you've got a whole new dopamine
like,
rush to chase. Yeah.
Yep. It's like a never-ending black hole, but it feels productive, you know?
Really, and like one day you might find out if you look hard enough that you're like related to a person, you know, like I always wonder if I ever sat down and took the time to like, which I have like thought about doing, which this might be like my own like personal weird little project one day.
Tell me.
Is I want to do ancestry for all the people I talk about in my paranormal stories and like see if any of them like have any connections or links. Or
that would be cool.
Or build like a master timeline of when all these things were taking place and see where they fall on the timeline. Because I feel like we've talked about like almost 350 locations. Like some of them were happening at the same time,
right? If Henrietta from St. Louis got in the newspaper, like we could probably figure out who's who, you know, who attended the Halloween party at my house.
Oh God. Okay. Anyway, I don't know. We've already just tangented so many ways.
I mean, I'm just like reading this thing here. I have this. I'm not. Mrs. Harry. This is the person who lived at my house. Mrs. Harry Blank of Blank Street is expecting her daughter and children of Paris this week for the summer. That's like the whole thing in the newspaper. Like that's the article.
I almost wish I lived in a time where you didn't even have to get off your couch. You could be that fucking nosy about every person in town.
And you'd like, now I understand those old timey like clips and, you know, in plays or whatever, where it's like the dad pulls out the newspaper and it like has to read the paper. I'm like, well, I'd be reading the paper too if it were like telling me who's in town, who's got some drama, who's throwing a party this weekend. I feel like I would read it too.
I kind of wish that like I live in an apartment complex. I wish we had our own newspaper where like weekly I could find out what everyone was up to and if they were in town, if they weren't, if they needed a dog sitter, or what the fuck's going on upstairs above me. Like how many roaches did you fucking see this week? And there should be like a tally and you can submit it, you know?
Did I ever tell you about the Woolper news?
No, but I'm about to really have an opinion about it.
When I was little, my friend Celine and I wrote a newspaper for our street called the Woolper News, and because my mom got a copier, and so we would type it up on Word and then print it out and then make copies and go to all the neighbors' houses and just put it unasked in their mailboxes. And I remember the first article, we wrote a critic movie review of Shrek, the movie. and I hadn't actually seen it yet, but I wrote a critic review of Shrek the movie. And then I thought everyone on my street, and the thing with my street too is like we were pretty like close to downtown Cincinnati. Like we were not in a neighborhood where people knew each other. It wasn't like where kids played outside. Like these people did not want small children on their porch.
Before the internet, children, first of all, were so fucking ballsy, but also
like, we were just
so creative. So creative. Like you just had to find a way to make your day last.
Oh my God, I gotta find that copy of Shrek critic movie review. And I pretended like it was other people writing, of course.
Sure. Of course.
Yeah, but I know we're like running on time, but I found this little article. Can I just read you a line of it about how I have to decorate my house from now on to like appease the ghosts?
Oh, hell yeah.
I found this Halloween thing. The home of Mr. and Mrs. Blah 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 was in gala Halloween attire Friday evening. Oh my God, these names: Winifred, Harriet, Lucille, Marguerite. Okay.
Don't say them too loud. You might be conjuring something.
Oh no! Like Marguerite? Is that
like
you?
Marguerite's ears just perked the fuck up after 300 years.
She just raised from the dead. She's like, the party's on? Okay. The rooms were effectively decorated in autumn leaves, yellow crepe paper embossed with black witches and cats, pumpkin lanterns that produced a weird sight as the young people, clad in fancy costumes and grotesque false faces, enjoyed the games arranged by the girls that provoked much laughter. After the games, a merry dance followed. Yeah, it's just really cute. I was like, oh my gosh, they had...
Girl, it sounds like you're going to have to do a merry dance.
That was from 1915.
That's wild. It also blows my mind that people were... I know.
No,
but it still blows
my
mind that people were celebrating Halloween and not much has changed since 1915.
It's so wild.
It makes me feel safe because sometimes I'm like faced with my own like mortality and I'm like, oh, I'm going to miss so much when I'm dead. And then it's like, oh, but not really on Halloween. It's going to look exactly the same for a long time.
And they're going to be summoning you and Marguerite from the grave.
It sounds like you and Marguerite might be haunting the same house one day. So you and her might know each other real well.
Anyway, that's really all I wanted to say. But I just, I'm, in my little ancestry phase, thanks to you and Zandy. So
hey, it's a phase that never fully dies. You'll always have waves of it. Just so you know. All right. Well, Marguerite, if you're listening and you need a good story, here comes one. By the way, you really should appease them because if you might actually also haunt that house one day.
God,
can you imagine getting to the other side and being like, "What'd you think of my decorations?" And she fucking side eyes you,
and they're like, "What? Where was the yellow crepe paper with the black witches?" Like, oh, fuck.
That's gonna
sorry.
be awkward. Yeah, you're gonna
have
to really
sell
deliver.
It on Amazon. I'm sorry.
You know what you should do as like a little homage though is at least like instead of having to feel obligated to decorate the whole place, maybe just if you can figure out which room it was, or just dedicate one room and just let that room be as accurate as you can imagine.
I'll be like, this is my creepy 1900s room. It's for the ghosts.
You literally live in a creepy 1900s house.
I know. This is for Marguerite, okay?
All right. Well, I feel like that was, by the way, some excellent banter for an introduction. And
God, that was chaotic.
I love her. But also here, it's going to get a little more chaotic because this story, I really tried to lean into ghosts and I ended up with like a really fucking wild fun fact story by the end.
Okay.
So, there are ghosts smattered about. But
are they okay?
But they're dead. So they didn't make it totally. But no, the ending, I was going through the notes and I was like, what? And I felt like I kept going, what? And
I can't wait.
The ghosts kind of got away from me because I was just fascinated by something else and I just rode the high. So you're going to have to write it too.
I'm on it.
Okay. So for, by the way, episode 322, happy 22, Christine.
Aw, you too.
We're covering a cave, the hauntings of a cave.
I love a cave.
It's in your neck of the woods, my friend.
Is it Mammoth Cave?
It's Mammoth Cave.
No, it's not.
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, yeah, super haunted.
Have you had an experience there? Winifred? Has she visited?
I have had a more curse than any haunting. That's where I went with that guy I dated, where he took 2 girls with him on that trip, and he was dating the other one, and I didn't really get it because I'm a little...
Oh, Christine.
Yeah, and then I accidentally stole him away from her. And
oh, Christine.
Yeah, but then now we're married to other people and we're friends again.
Oh, Christine.
I didn't mean to, but I still feel really guilty about it. And anyway, but okay, point is, he made us go on an 8-hour cave spelunking expedition. It was called the Expert. And there was a guy, a former Marine, who had to quit halfway through and they had to escort him back out. That's how it was a nightmare. Like a nightmare. But I was trying to impress this boy.
The second a boy, if I met the day I met Allison, when I was just like, I couldn't, like, nothing could stop me from being with her. Spelunking could have.
I was gonna say this was the ultimate test, and somehow we like. I was like, yeah, I'm sporty, I can do it, and they were both really athletic. So I was like, I got it, I'm on it.
You have a lot more moxie than me because if Elizabeth Olsen herself came down and said, for $1 million and one kiss, you have to go spelunking, I'd be like, girl, you're not for me. I don't know what to tell you. Spelunking, I gotta be honest, I honestly can't imagine anything worse.
There was literally one point. Worse. There is one thing that's worse, which is where there was like a 4 to 6 foot gap, and they said you have to jump like from one to the other, and if you fall, they were like, you better not fall because it takes about 11 hours for emergency personnel to get down here, and you will have both legs broken, if not dead, if you're not dead by the time you hit the bottom. So they were like, you have to run and you have to commit and you have to leap over it, and if you half-ass it, you'll fall. And I was like, this is my nightmare.
I honestly, like, there's, with love, Christine, if someone said do this or Christine dies, I'd be like, girl, I hope you and Marguerite have a great fucking night.
I would have stepped off of the ledge into that crevice. Don't worry, I'd be gone. I know better.
You're not coming home, girl.
But anyway, that's my haunted experience at fucking Mammoth Caves. But it's beautiful, and I want to go back in a more normal way where I just get to look at it.
Just like if you don't see grass, don't go there to that area. That sounds great.
Sorry, I'm talking so much today, but I just wanted to put my input about Mammoth Caves. But I love it there. It's beautiful.
I love the 2 cents. I worry for you that spelunking is like somehow not on your red flags list. But
extremely traumatic. It is now. It took me. I was young and dumb and naive,
And correct me if spelunking is the like getting into little fucking holes and trying to like, I'm sorry, I'm sure it's a lovely sport and there's a science to it and all this stuff, but like, how do you fucking get into that?
Leave it for the professionals,
But I'm also like the professionals also need to go home. Like they don't
stop.
Like, give me a reason.
Don't we have GoPros?
What was the reason?
We have cameras now. Put a camera on a bat.
Yes,
put it on GoPro on a bat.
And extend a pole. But like, I don't understand. I don't understand the point besides like being able to say like, I'm this skinny. Like, I don't understand.
That was part of it. My butt got sucked like 3 times, and I was like, this. And I actually like, if I'm being honest, I think that's why the former Marine guy had to go back, because he couldn't fit through all the little crevices, which now I absolutely could not fit through, but at the time I could barely fit through. And they had like a weight and height restriction, and like you had to pass like this fit. It was insane. I don't even know. I don't know. It was not a high time of my life. All right, let's just put it that way. Anyway.
Well, it's okay. Thank God I wasn't there. You would have just seen me rolling my eyes the entire time.
You would not have made it that far in. I would have been like, fuck this.
That's cute. I'll be at Chipotle. Come get me when you're done.
At the local Chipotle in the woods, yeah.
If I don't hear from you in an hour, I'm going to assume you're dead and also not come looking for you. Okay, so here is Mammoth Cave. It is in Brownsville, Kentucky, which I looked up with your address we won't be saying, and you're 3 hours from there.
Yeah!
It is the world's longest known cave system, hence why it's called Mammoth Cave.
Mm-hmm.
It has this is just currently, it has over 400 miles. It's of tunnels and underground workings and caves and all this.
I can confirm that because I think I went through all 400.
Did you just
with my body
dive into 400 miles of little cracks and just...
I was so bruised the next day. It was horrifying.
Wow. That truly does sound terrible.
Terrible.
I don't wish to be you.
Don't recommend. I don't even know if they still do it, but don't do it.
I think they do. I think they do. I don't know, but it sounds like people still come here that are like either cave experts or like cave diving, exploring experts. Yeah,
explorers
like
me. Yeah.
Yeah, for me, I just want to like look from the car and go, "That's nice," and then keep driving.
I want to go to the gift shop. That's literally all I want. Like, I just want to go to the gift shop.
So, can you imagine, like, what kind of stuff do you think would be at a gift shop for a cave?
Okay, my brother and I did caves on Beach Too Sandy, and I read about a lot of reviews of gift shops at caves, and they are wacko.
They gotta have when you dig through the sand and you find a little rock or a dinosaur bone.
A little fossil brush.
A little fossil brush.
Now that's good. I bet they have stuffed bats. The one thing that they did have at a lot of these caves was like bizarre Trump paraphernalia, because a lot of them are in very rural locations and like run just by individual families. So there was some weird shit. I don't think Mammoth Cave is like that.
The little kid helmets with the lantern on it.
That's cute.
Oh, a lantern.
A lantern.
A little lantern or a flashlight.
Now we're talking.
A lot of things that light up, I bet.
Yeah.
Okay, so there's over 400 miles that have been explored. That's it. There are said to be another 600 miles to explore.
Are you serious?
So even if you got lost, there is less than a 50% chance it's in charted waters.
But that's why those spelunkers do it. They're like trying to chart the territory.
And they're also trying to like get their name known for discovering a certain cave.
Oh no. Well, I'm sure I deserve something, I think.
You know, with the alliteration of Christine's cave, you certainly...
Come on.
Your cave would be so fucking crazy. It would make no sense. You, like,
just
no
lost.
GPS in the world could get you back.
It's just a circle. You'd be so confused.
So, fun fact, in 1905, this cave inspired H.P. Lovecraft's early work of The Beast in the Cave, which was about a beast in the cave.
Whoa, that's beautiful.
Thank you. There's also, the cave was originally used for mining gypsum, which I looked up what gypsum is. Do you know what it is?
Yeah, it's like a crystal.
Yes, it's used apparently a lot for like plaster and chalk and blackboard.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that sounds
Fun
right.
fact. But they would mine for this in a time when like there weren't really, a lot of ways to get too far into the cave because it was so fucking dark. So at that point, only like 20 miles of the cave had been discovered. The rest of it was just an abyss.
But how cool and mysterious.
I know, which is why people like you probably kept going. Yeah. And that's how we got 400 miles of this place.
And all these ghosts, apparently.
So the cave has been used, as far as we know, based on artifacts we've found. As if I was fucking involved in that.
I was gonna say, and then I kept my mouth shut. I was like, okay.
The cave has been used for at most 6,000 years, as far as we can tell, by indigenous folks. And yikes, during the War of 1812, enslaved people were forced to mine saltpeter here for gunpowder.
Great.
They also, these enslaved people were also used for the earliest wave of mapping the cave.
Of course, because they were like, we'll spelunk when it's cool. We'll put our name on it, but you do the hard work.
But like you go into the completely dark miles of hundreds and hundreds of miles of
risk your life for it. Yeah.
And never come back. So let's just say probably a lot of deaths are from that alone. Mm-hmm. A lot of these enslaved people were also the first guides in the 1830s when tourists began to visit the cave, which blows my I mean, yes, sad, but blows my mind that there were tourists in the 1830s. Like, I don't know why, but I feel like the entertainment value of, I can't imagine like admission for something in the 1830s.
But don't we talk about all those weird things like, oh, people were murdered here. Pay a nickel and you can walk through and take home a postcard to the kids.
That's true. And I guess there wasn't like too much in the entertainment world to go off of. So a cave was like pretty much
it was like either a freak show or like a cave. That was about it. Or a murder house, crime scene.
I guess so. Yeah. So because now people were coming in, these enslaved people were also being used as tour guides. One of these enslaved people was Stephen Bishop, who we fucking love, by the way.
Oh, hell yeah.
He was ended up being a famous guide of the cave, and he is probably the smartest person in terms of the geology of this cave. He knew so much about this area. Bishop has been credited by the National Parks website as one of the greatest explorers Mammoth Cave has ever known, and scientists even relied on him for his geology information, and he mapped over 20 miles himself and was the first to observe a certain type of cave fish that was here.
Ooh. Did they name it the bishop fish? The fishop? Obviously not, but I wish they did.
Wow, a fishop. Are you kidding me? That would have been so fucking great.
It's too bad.
I like to think that's what he called it, though. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
He's like, I'm bishop and these are my fishops. Like a nosh galosh. Okay.
A nosh galosh, just the same.
Exactly the same thing.
One and the same.
So in 1842, there was a guy named Dr. Croghan. He was the nephew of William Clark of Lewis and Clark.
Oh.
Mm-hmm. He was Clark's nephew, and he owned the cave and people.
Cool. Great.
He had tuberculosis, or I'm sorry, consumption at the time. And I don't know if this guy was like an early like QAnon fella or something, but he was interested in experimenting with tuberculosis since he had it. So he moved 15 other people with tuberculosis, who I guess volunteered, into the caves with him. So all 16 of them lived in the caves.
Okay.
His thought behind this was because consumption required like fresh air. I think he forgot what the word fresh meant.
Yeah, mildewy air.
Just damp,
surrounded
dark.
by fish. Yeah.
Yeah, fish up, excuse you. But I think he thought, well, the cave is apparently at the time it's always 54 degrees, so it was cool air. So I think he mixed up cool air and fresh air.
It happens.
Him and 15 other people, all with tuberculosis that was not healing itself, all moved into these caves. And he had the people he enslaved build 10 cabins for them in the caves or near the caves, and he that was where they all stayed. These people lived in the caves for months. It was supposed to heal them, or that's what he thought, but they didn't take into account how damp and gross the air was, plus the fact that they were bringing oil lanterns in there, and so they were fumigating themselves.
Oh my gosh.
So if your issue is like a respiratory health problem and now you're just breathing in carcinogens in a musty cave for months.
Can I give you a fun fact about consumption?
Yeah.
My brother told me recently, he knows really weird like facts that are always ancillary to our stories on this show. But we were at like don't judge me. We were at a home and garden show because my mom really wanted to go and I wanted her to watch the baby. So we went to this home and garden show and they had all these Adirondack chairs. And my brother was like, do you know why they call them Adirondack chairs? And I was like, no.
I just assumed it was because they're from the Adirondacks.
So apparently they were the chairs that they would use for people with tuberculosis. And so at the sanitariums, like Waverly Hills, they would line up all these Adirondack chairs and just have people like lounge out in the fucking snow and shit to try and recover. But they were primarily utilized in the Adirondacks. So that's why they're called Adirondack chairs.
I have 2 fun facts to go off of your fun fact.
Oh, I see. Okay, you're going to one-up my fun fact. All right, I have one after you. So I'm going to one-up your 2-up.
I don't know if they're going to one-up you, but just through ADHD and selfishness, I'm going to just talk about myself.
Go for it.
The Adirondacks are my favorite spot in the entire world. Did you know
that? What? I thought Canada was. I'm so confused.
Like, I obviously love Canada, and I've talked about that a million times. But if I ever, like when I think about where I'm going to, like, retire one day, it will be the Adirondacks.
Well,
like,
I can see you on an Adirondack chair with consumption.
Well, fun fact number 2, there's nothing, Christine, that gets me more jazzed than those Adirondack chairs that are so big your entire family can fucking fit
not
in them.
Those.
Every time I've ever seen one. I have been with Allison's family in a car and I didn't know them very well yet. And that didn't matter to me. I saw one from across the highway and I went, stop the car! And then I made everyone take a picture with me. And that,
oh my God.
Nothing. Well, to be honest, there's nothing I love more than things that are not their normal
wrong
size.
Yeah.
either too small or too big. But those Adirondack chairs, they really get me going.
Well, now you know why they're called that, because they're for people with tuberculosis. It's pretty cool.
I wish if we were all going to die from tuberculosis, why didn't they have those really large novelty ones so everyone could sit together?
Just hold hands. Oh my God. I bet the air's nice up there too, like a little less damp than a fucking underground cave.
What was your fun fact off of my fun fact off of your fun fact?
So my brother recently went to I'm circling us back to the cave.
Oh, okay.
My brother recently went to Mammoth Caves. I forget why, but he went recently, and he said, for the first time since we were kids, and he said they still have chars on the walls and ceiling of the cave from those oil lamps that those people brought in. Like, you can still see all the residue, because back then you could just wander into like a national landmark and like fucking put fire
what's crazy
everywhere.
Is they still do tours with the oil lantern sometimes.
Oh, I think he did that tour.
I think they do them like few enough that it's not totally damaging the park.
Yeah. I think he said they pointed out like where you could see all the old,
or maybe they have a certain path where they're like, this part will destroy, but the rest of it is sacred.
This part's safe. It's okay.
So anyway, these tuberculosis patients who signed up for this like wacky project with William Clark's nephew, they're all living in these cabins, either in or near the mountain, or the cave, and they are just slowly killing themselves. And they actually had a cook hired on that would bring food to them every day so that they never had to leave the caves, because they thought the caves were keeping them so alive. And the cook even said this about them: I used to stand on that rock and blow the horn to call them to dinner, and they looked more like a company of skeletons than anything else. So 5 of those people died in the cave.
Oh, no.
So that's a third of them. And their bodies got moved to a spot that's now called Corpse Rock.
Oh, my gosh.
Some were also buried in the cave's cemetery, which apparently there was a fucking cemetery at this cave because so many people were dying.
No,
okay.
No.
It's called Old Guide Cemetery, and their cabins still stand. And there were even postcards with like pictures of these cabins. And they called the cabins consumptive cabins because people had consumption there. In 1849, Dr. Krogan himself died of tuberculosis, so his project did not land. And all of his, I hope, all of his, the people that he enslaved were freed, one of them being Stephen Bishop, who also became a, quote, world-renowned naturalist.
Hell yeah.
He also took a job as a guide at the caves because he loved it so much. So he ended up working as a guide there and then became known as like the best guide the cave had ever seen.
Oh, that's great. Good for him. What a fucking comeuppance,
Yeah, I'm very I also really, his only downfall is he didn't call them fish up, but that was it.
Honestly, he might have just gotten lost to history,
I think he like just kind of wrote, he just jotted down in a notebook somewhere
under his breath, and someone said, "What'd you say?" And he's like, "Nothing."
he tried to see if it would land, but nobody got it. He went, yeah, never mind.
Don't worry, you were just born in the wrong generation. Now we're loving it. We're loving it.
So in the 1820s, since then there have reportedly been hauntings in these caves, which would make sense. People are already dying of, I guess, tuberculosis, and there are a lot of people who went missing in these caves, either because they were looking around or because they were enslaved and forced to. There's already people not making it. So today there's over 150 official reported haunting experiences.
Oh my gosh. I didn't know there were that many.
Which I feel like 150 since the 1820s. I feel like that's only like one haunting a year.
I thought you meant like 150 specific ghosts. You're saying like just instances.
Oh,
yeah, I guess so. But if you think like in a place where people aren't usually living, it feels like
that's true.
Like
for a second, I was like, we can do better than that. But I guess
don't step it up.
Yeah. But yeah, apparently there's at least 150 reported instances of hauntings since the 1820s. people would see miners, and again, that's miners, in outdated clothing, walking alone in the cave. So there's people that used to work in the caves that are still haunting the place. People would hear horrible coughing from the consumptive cabins.
That's spooky.
And see shadow figures walking in and out of them.
Oof.
People also claim that they can still see Stephen on the grounds carrying a lantern and exploring, and he's in old clothes.
Aww.
He's even said to be seen on tours and in the cemetery where he's buried.
Like when people are on tours?
Mm-hmm. I hate that. It always freaked me out. The one place that we've covered a lot, or well, we haven't covered it a lot, but we covered it, and a lot of the stories were just what people have seen on tours, is the Alamo.
Oh,
and there was like,
I remember
cowboys and soldiers and children and Abraham Lincoln and like all these random fucking like all these beings just show up on tours and then like talk to the kids on the tour.
And then there was that story of the kid who was like playing with another kid and then was like, the kid had to go away and he was never really there.
Yep. It's just a no thanks from me.
Nah.
On the tours now, the guides will do a blackout portion where they want you to know how dark the caves actually look without any lights on. So they will turn off their lanterns.
It is truly terrifying, by the way.
I haven't been in a cave at pitch black, and it really is. I mean, it's the classic, you can't see your hand in front of you.
It's like you feel like you're suddenly disembodied. Like you don't know where it's very unsettling.
Well, it's perfect because their tour, I think it's like part of the spooky portion of the tour. And they turn out the lantern. So you're already like discombobulated and then there's just, you can't see anything. You can't hear anything.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. And so then people actually like, maybe it's their senses, or maybe it's them like trying to piece something together, but people swear they hear things and see stuff. One guide, as he was turning out the lantern one time, saw a family in the back of the group, and he knew they were not part of the tour. And they looked very clean and fancy and period clothing, and then they vanished. And he realized that where they were standing in the cave was near a former church that held services in the cave.
What?
I think this was during the time of slavery. I think people were finding ways to hold church services
I see.
for
when
themselves.
They were forced to be in there. Okay.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then there ended up being an actual Methodist church in the caves too. So I don't know if that was, I don't know the history to that, but I mean, if that's like that's a church I would at least go once if my like friend dragged me because I slept over, you know? I'd be like, if it's in a cave, I'm not going to complain as much, you know? It's like, my mom said you can sleep over, but you have to come to church with us in the morning. But it's in a cave. I'd be like, okay.
But there's bats.
Oh.
And a gift shop.
Oh, okay. So in this same area, where we're seeing apparitions of people who shouldn't be there, people also hear footsteps. People have gotten shoved as if someone's walking past them, but then nobody's there. But that's got to be so creepy at night when you're walking around, or when you're on a tour and you turn out the lights and you know there are people near you. And if someone bumps into you, you can explain that as like, oh, that's one of the guests who can't see. But if you turn the lantern back on and you're the only person on that side of the room,
forget it.
People have gotten shoved by a lot of unknown forces. They've even felt someone grabbing their hands in the dark, which just thank you.
Because that means they can see your hand. Like
they can see you.
But you can't see them, which is just the worst.
Ooh, and just like that.
Unacceptable.
Just like that. Guests, staff, and researchers, because remember, a lot of researchers still come here. They have all heard multiple kinds of sounds, including gunshots when you're alone. No fucking thanks. They've also heard a lot of voices, especially women's voices, and one of the most famous voices is said to be of a woman named Melissa. Now, tell me what you think about Melissa. She's from the 1800s, which, again, I didn't know Melissa was a name in the 1800s, but
me neither.
She apparently really liked this guy who didn't like her back. So you know what she did? She took him to the caves, and she took him deep into the caves, and then she fucking left him there.
No.
And he never found his way out of the caves. And she's so guilt-ridden about this, allegedly, that her ghost still calls out looking for him in the caves to bring him out.
Oh, no.
I know. Melissa did him
Oh
dirty.
my gosh. I mean, listen, no means no, Melissa, okay? Someone's not into you. It doesn't mean you get to kill them.
That's a great point.
Just
And
saying.
also, I will say the Melissa story is like, I think, a little bit of a legend at this point. We don't know if it truly happened. But
Wowza.
people, if you hear a woman's voice, people just go like, Melissa, you know?
Melissa, give it a rest.
I mean, she does sound a little needy and wishy-washy all at the same time. She's like,
she's
never
like, I
mind.
feel so bad. I'm like, why did you do that then?
So there's a woman's voice, which we think is Melissa's. We don't even know if Melissa's real or not. It's heard a lot when you're coming around corners and people can never make out what she's saying, but they do hear a woman's voice. People also hear screams. They hear intense knocking that can't be explained away. And some people have even thought that this cave happens to have knockers, which we talked about that in the Haunted Mines episode, which was episode 298. In 1935, there were two guides whose names were Grover and Lyman, which now I feel like we're in Sesame Street. And I've never heard of a person actually named Grover. Well, I guess our president. But whatever.
Our president? Oh, you mean like back
Grover
in the
Cleveland?
I'm like, who do you think is our president? Super Grover?
Yeah,
I wish.
The little blue Muppet, yeah.
I knew a guy named Grover growing up. That's
Shut up. What was he like?
He rode a motorcycle and he was like the handyman and he lived on Woolper. He was one of the unwilling participants of the Woolper news.
So I feel like, are you saying Woolper? Woolper?
Woolper. Yeah. Woolper.
I want you to hear it though. Like pretend that I'm pitching. No. Pretend I'm pitching an episode of Sesame Street. Grover is a handyman on Woolper Street.
Woolper Avenue.
Woolper Avenue. I'm so sorry.
It has an even more fun ring to it.
None of that sounds right. Also,
and he rode a little motorcycle. I mean, he was great. And Selena and I harassed him all the time. We're like, Grover! And he'd be like, leave me alone.
I wonder if Grover's going to make a comeback one day.
You know what else? He lived in the apartment complex with the guy that we called Antimobile because he had a car and he said it was for ants. So we started calling him Antimobile. But then the people who lived above them, their apartment caught on fire. And that's how we ended up with 3 chinchillas one summer. It's a really weird place to live. But so there was plenty of fodder for the Woolper News because I had a lot to write about the fire. Shrek.
Have you... It's sometimes so hard to be your co-host because...
Sorry.
Have you ever heard the TikTok sound where like they're like Tom got in an accident and then he rolled the car 5 times and also he had a bruise on his eye? Like it like was just it's just like more and more and more to this and no context. That's how that all came to be just now. Grover had a motorcycle but also an Antmobile, but then something caught on fire and that's why they had chinchillas. That's an episode of fucking Sesame Street, by the way. You're only convincing me more and more that you lived on 123 Sesame Street.
It was all such a blur, but that was a weird summer. I'm not going to deny it.
It certainly doesn't sound normal. So I'm glad you can admit that. Let's try this again. There were 2 guides in 1935 named Grover and Lyman. Or Bert and Ernie, apparently. And
Antimobile.
They drove the Antimobile to the caves. And they discovered a mummy.
Oh, no.
This is like your fucking chinchilla story. This makes no sense.
Yeah, he's one up. Lyman is like, fucking sit down. Hold my beer, Grover.
So they found a famous mummy that is now named Lost John.
Oh, no.
And apparently, I will say, they found this mummy who ended up being like the famous mummy of them all. But apparently this cave had a few mummies. And they were found after the War of 1812 because bodies had died in there. And because the cave has such sodium-rich soil, bodies were being mummified by accident.
Oh my gosh.
Including their organs being fully intact. And that's what happened to Lost John. So they think that maybe he's from like 400s BC, apparently.
What?
And they think maybe he was mining for gypsum and got crushed by a rock or something and died in the cave. And they found his fucking body. And then, yikes, he was then put on display for tourists for decades.
Oh, well, that's what I'm saying with the whole freak show crime scene thing. It really does go hand in hand with all these other tourist spots from back then.
Yeah, that I could understand why people would charge a nickel. Like, that makes more sense than, like, just, I don't know, a random cave that you can't see in. Anyway, now that maybe there's lanterns and also mummies, people are obviously coming. I understand.
I get it. I do.
This mummy wasn't properly reburied until the 1970s. And he was reburied where he was found, and apparently very few staff were told exactly the location of his body currently.
Oh, wow, they don't want him dug back up? Disturbed.
And when those two guides found him, they were waiting around until someone, I guess, like in the 30s, how do you like call the police? I don't understand. But
a phone tree? I don't know.
You just like literally scream until someone hears you.
Literally.
Help! Like, but you're in a cave.
So.
Like,
oh, right.
Anyway, apparently they somehow alerted the authorities, and while they waited around for them to get there, they were kind of like just hanging out next to his body, and they were looking around in the caves. Grover finds a hole, and he sticks his hand in it to see what else is in there, and nothing comes. He doesn't pull anything out, but all of a sudden, inside the rock where his hand is, he hears 3 very slow knocks from below. He's like, that's fucking crazy. And Lyman goes, let me try. And the same thing happens multiple times.
You dummies, don't do that.
So I don't know what they set off, but the two of them swear that these 3 knocks that were delivered to each of them caused them to have bad luck for the rest of their lives. So they maybe lost John, the mummy cursed them, is their thought.
No.
So Grover only died 3 years after this event. 3 more years later, Lyman lost his job. 30 years later, Lyman's kid had really bad health issues. And 3 years after that, his kid died from those health issues.
No.
And Lyman said he regretted finding Lost John, thinking that Lost John cursed them. And he warned others to never go exploring and messing around with that stuff. In the graveyard, a lot of people hear a woman playing violin because I guess her house used to be there.
That's spooky.
Apparently, there are some ruins nearby where people still see items disappear and then reappear in other areas.
Oh.
And then this is the fucking noodles situation, Christine. In case this episode wasn't insane enough for you.
Pretty bananas already, but I'm ready.
This is the story of arguably the most famous ghost, or at least the most famous death at Mammoth Cave, of Floyd Collins.
Okay.
Do you know this name?
I don't think so.
This is fucking Balloonitunes. Do you know about the Kentucky Cave Wars?
No. Did you say wars or
Wars?
I thought you said the one that rhymes with it, and I was like,
What?
I thought you said the Kentucky Cave Horse.
Is that also a thing?
I don't know. I was like, should I know? Because I feel like I want to.
That sounds like a crazy brothel or something.
I was like, wow, what a TLC original series. No, sorry.
Kentucky
Wars.
Cave Wars.
I think I've heard of it, but I don't really know much about it.
So this happened in the 1920s when a lot of the caves were privately owned at the time.
But
but tourists were still coming to look at caves. And so now all of a sudden, all these people with a privately owned cave are now like competing for the admission of tourists. And it was this boom in cave tourism, which I did not even know was a thing. And it was called the Kentucky Cave Wars, where I guess all these like rich people were like, nope, mine's gonna be the hot spot for tourism.
God, it's insane. Like, think about first all the white people being like, let's own this
rock.
Of Earth.
Yeah,
this is my rock.
This is my rock. It's never been explored, so it's not like I know anything about it.
Right.
But it's still.
And it's not like I explored it. God forbid.
And I never would, and I never will. So
and I never will. But you should pay me 5 cents, and then you can come look at it, and it's better than everyone else's. God.
So I do know that William Clark's nephew, the guy, the tuberculosis man, he paid $10,000 for his rock, for his cave.
For his rock.
Which that was 1920s, 1930s, so whatever, $10,000. Yeah. Let me find the actual year. Oh shit, apparently it was 1842.
Oh, well, that probably would have made a big difference.
1842, $10,000.
10,000? Let's find out. That would be, oh my goodness, $364,000 and $364,841.
I feel like no cave is worth that. Like, I mean, maybe the cave itself, it could, in the world of like valuables, maybe it is worth that money, but it's not worth, to me, I
feel like
wouldn't
it'd be
see
worth
a rock
it
and be
if
like, that's
you-
worth spending that much.
I feel like I would because, I mean, I wouldn't because I don't want to like own a cave. Well, I do. But anyway, I feel like if you're charging people entrance, then you can do the math and be like, okay, I'll pay this much for it.
Like an investment.
But I'll profit, you know.
I guess so. But there's so many other things I would spend $300,000 on besides a cave.
I mean, I'm
maybe
sure
if it were
he
like
had,
the Bat Cave, you know?
yeah, if it had some technology.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, on a cool car. But also, he probably had a lot more than just that money. Like, that was probably just one thing he decided to buy. You know what I mean?
To have that much
like,
money
I'm sure he
in the
was
1840s.
able to buy lots of other things, too. It sounds like people as well. So
Yeah, exactly.
Yikes.
Sounds like nothing was
off
bad
limits.
enough for his dollars. Yeah.
Yep.
Kentucky Cave Wars, people are like exploiting their own caves for tourism dollars.
Great.
And there's this guy named Floyd. So Floyd wanted in on this like cave industry, and he even found a cave on his property called Crystal Cave.
Oh.
Now, one thing that I think is super ironic about all this is that everyone was like, I privately own this cave. I privately own this cave. And then like years later, we'd find out that all those caves were fucking connected to Mammoth Cave, which was also privately owned. So technically none of them, I don't think, belonged to them.
It's all one big cave, right?
It was just all one big cave. But so he found Crystal Cave on his property, which also, by the way, later we find out was connected to Mammoth Cave. But he was like, I have a cave on my own property. This is amazing. I'm so glad I found this. I'm going to like be in with the cave tourism. And no one is coming to his cave. Apparently it was either too hard to find, or it was, I don't totally know the reasoning, but no one was visiting his cave. So he was like, all right, plan B, I'm going to find another fucking cave. And he ended up exploring what became known as Sand Cave, sand like beach sand. And I think it was actually on another person's property, and he was like, if I find anything real good, we'll just split the profits. And I don't know if he was honest about that or not, but he's exploring Sand Cave, and he's hoping that after he maps it, he can make it accessible to visitors, and then he'll start making his money.
Okay.
So part of Sand Cave, the part that he was climbing through in this one event, I'm sure he was climbing forever and ever and ever, and all of it went super duper well. Now we get to this one point where he's climbing, and I think he's actually trying to get out of his hole, but he's like spelunking for sure. And he's trying to get out, and apparently the space he's trying to climb out of is, quote, barely wider than an air conditioning duct.
Oh, no.
When a 27-pound rock falls and traps his foot.
Oh, shit.
By the way, I've never watched 27 Days Later with James Franco and The Rock.
Don't watch it.
I can't imagine, but also like, I can't imagine that, and also the claustrophobia of being in something the size of an air conditioning duct.
Right. Yeah, none of it's good. It's actually quite bad.
So he was found a whole day later, which at least he was found. He was alive.
I'm surprised he was found, to be honest.
Experts, like, there were like, I don't know what type of experts are involved in this, but cave experts, they were all trying to help him. First responders were there. So many people came out, firemen, police, everyone was coming to help this man. And eventually he got so many people there trying to help him. And the word spread so much. Keep in mind our story about local newspapers. Yeah. Like 24 hours later, imagine what was in the paper. This man's fucking stuck in a rock.
We should find it.
We probably could. Well, so many people, I guess, read the news or heard the news. Like radio announcers came, like news reporters came. So everyone knew about this. And so many onlookers came to watch him get rescued that like food stands and souvenir carts and game stands were all set up nearby, and this became a fucking carnival.
Oh my god. Oh my god.
Like he could have, like, the trauma of like, I'd be like, if I get out of here, I'm never eating a fucking turkey leg again. Like I can't, like this
the
is
smell of just like kettle corn would just be so triggering after that.
like so many people, like it. Also, by the way, I do have a picture for you of him, just so you know what the situation is. So this is what he looked like in there. I'm putting it in Geo's trio. This is him stuck, and he's further down than it looks.
Oh my god. Oh my god. That is ghostly. I'm scared of this picture.
That's the face of someone who can smell kettle corn and knows
no one's offered it. It's like they're like, you can't gain any weight. We're trying to pull you out of this fucking hole.
Honestly, though, I can't even imagine the fear and the panic. I mean, I would also be like so grateful that people came at least and are trying to help me, but I don't know how I would feel.
But it does remind me of the times you and I have said to each other, like, if I go out, or like you've said, if I pass out on stage, like, it better be funny and entertaining, and you better milk the shit out of it. You know, I feel like it reminds me of that attitude of like, we might as well turn this into, like, he wanted to be successful by, you know, making a touristy cave. Well, look, here you go.
I hope he had my opinion about that, or my attitude of like, if I'm going down and it's gonna suck, we might as well make it as fun as we can.
Might as well let other people, you know, look on with some popcorn.
If I ever do pass out on stage, which is still a minute by minute fear of mine, if there's a food truck outside, please make that man come inside and give everybody free tacos or something while I get it together.
It'll be on me. I'll be like, tacos on me.
Yeah, we'll expense it. We'll expense it for the whole audience.
Don't worry about it. We'll expense M's ambulance bill and all the turkey legs.
Tell the theater tech to turn on the disco lights, bump up the bass. And I mean it, by the way.
I know.
Okay.
I know you mean it. I'm glad we're clarifying for the listeners out there. Yes.
Just in case. Okay. But anyway, so people are coming out in droves to see this all unfold. So reporters were coming, announcers were coming. Literally, congressmen were leaving the House floor for updates. Like, the entire world was just obsessed with this story.
He's like viral, you know, for the day.
If that was their version of viral, he absolutely went viral. He was on the front page of newspapers for weeks.
Oh, Jesus.
By the way, because he was in there for weeks.
No.
They couldn't get him out.
This is like the Chilean cave miners or Baby Jessica or something. You know? Like, this keeps happening.
Well, like, he's literally, I think it was like 18 days or something, and they couldn't get him out. So, like, I think people were like volunteering to go down there and like try to like give him food while they were figuring it out. Jesus. There was one reporter named William Skeets Miller. A reporter named Skeets. Okay. Yep. And it was apparently because he was as small as a mosquito, which, like, wow.
What? Okay, I'm not going to question it.
It's better than the other version of Skeets. So.
Yeah, I suppose.
So he apparently, as a reporter, and he was like, if I'm here, I'm going to get the best fucking story I can. He would literally crawl down the hole to like where I guess someone was holding him by his feet to interview Floyd himself.
They don't call him Skeets for nothing, you know?
He's just so itty bitty. He could just slide right down.
Just like,
can you imagine if he slid too hard and like ran into him? Like,
my God.
But so I guess like someone was I'm assuming someone was holding him by his ankles while he interviewed Floyd himself to get like, you know, on the ground reporting. In the ground reporting. But also, like, props to Skeets, because anytime he would interview him, he went down there multiple times. And every time he would try to, like, dig him out while he was there, or, like, pull on him or do whatever he could to try to also help him.
Well, that's nice.
And this is a quote that I saw. I think this was from the Daily Beast. But apparently Floyd Collins became such a big name. This was in the 30s, I think. 30s. And I mean, it truly was viral at the time. This is a quote. It was national radio's first major story. And it was the first time that the entire country would stay abreast of a tragedy as it unfolded. Colin's story is considered one of the 3 biggest news stories in the U.S. between the wars, along with Charles Lindbergh's solo flight across the Atlantic and the kidnapping of his baby.
Oh my God.
Of the Lindbergh baby.
He's like in a Lindbergh sandwich.
He's in a war sandwich and then a Lindbergh sandwich. It's like PEMDAS. I don't know.
PEMDAS. It's the world's worst version of PEMDAS.
And so he's, I mean, in between World War I and World War II, you're one of the top 3 stories.
That's insane.
So 18 days go by, and during this, I think it was either 1 or 2 other cave-ins happen from people trying to get to him.
Of course.
And cave-ins are making it worse and worse. So eventually, one of the cave-ins happens and locks him away from people. People are now like, the only option is to dig a whole new fucking route, which takes 5 days to get him. And when they get him, he's died.
He died?
He died.
Oh, shit. I really thought with the carnival and everything that he was going to be okay.
I know. But I mean, he was down there by himself for 5 days. No food.
That's so sad.
His death was the most famous death to come out of caving. And incidentally, his death brought a lot more tourism to Mammoth Cave, which is ironic since he wanted to do all this to help to get into tourism.
And that was like his competing cave, right?
Yeah.
Oh, no.
Yes. So like a real kick in the crotch to Floyd Collins.
I'm sad about that. That's so traumatic to die like that. I would haunt the shit out of this cave if I were him.
Well, he haunted for a few reasons, and you'll see in a second. So this tourism that went to the Mammoth Cave because people were just want to go see the site where he died. The tourism got so popular and this cave got so big that it ended up becoming a national park, like being ranked on the register of national parks.
Jesus.
So like he really shot himself in the foot there of this is my competitor and now it's also a literal national park.
Thanks to me.
So this is not the end of his fucking bananagram story because his brother and friends ended up burying him near the cave. And a year later, I guess a new property owner was involved and found where he was buried, dug him up, and put him in a glass casket for tourists to view.
Ew.
Here is a picture.
No.
You can't see in it. There's a picture of his coffin.
Oh my God.
And then also here is a picture of the rock that was trapping him down there.
Oh my God.
So now he's in he's now in a glass casket for tourists.
This is horrifying.
2 years go by. So he's in a glass casket on display for everybody that entire time. Then one day the property manager shows up and Floyd has been stolen. He's then found in a field, missing his leg.
What?
I'm assuming the leg that the rock crushed. I don't know. And then he's brought back to the cave and then is still like public access until 1961.
Just without a leg.
Just without a leg.
What the fuck?
And then in 1961, that area of the cave officially became like restricted access. And then he still wasn't buried for like another 18 years.
Oh my God.
But this entire time, people obviously reported spooky experiences near where his body was. So, once while alone, an employee was next to Floyd's casket and saw a bottle slide by itself off the shelf and then heard phantom fingers tapping on the glass.
Ew. Ew, ew, ew.
As if like, ding, 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 it was me.
Yeah. It's
Ding,
one
ding,
thing
ding.
to like see it fall and you can convince yourself, oh, it was just like a shift in the wind. I don't know. But then the clinking, blech.
2 researchers one time were in one of the caves and heard a phone ringing. They like one of the cave phones and they followed,
the classic cave phone. I didn't know there were phones down there. That's wild.
I like how I like to think of the different caves as different departments of like, hello, no, wrong cave.
HR? Oh, no.
Let me transfer you. So they were down there and heard the phone ringing, and they followed the sound to like which phone was ringing, and it was
Right?
the one next to Floyd's coffin. And they picked it up to see who was on the other line. Nobody was on the line, but as they were holding the phone, the sound of someone coming on the phone showed up, and then that person gasped, and then the line went dead. So it's like
What?
they picked up the phone before anything happened, and then they heard someone pick up the other line, gasp, and hang up. I don't know. But then they ended up leaving the cave to go home that day, and when they were coming up the hill, they saw that the phone wires to that phone they had got the ring on, the wires were cut years ago. Another time, there was a woman named Candace who took a caving class and lost her footing and fell near where Floyd had fallen. And she felt a hand grab her and save her, but nobody else was near her when it happened. Which she was probably like, girl, I've done this. Don't do it. Don't do it. There was a man collecting data near the cave, and he heard, help me, Johnny. I'm trapped, Johnny. And his coworkers next to him didn't hear that, but he kept hearing, Johnny, I'm trapped. And he didn't know the story about Floyd Collins, but he later looked him up and found out that his best friend's name was Johnny, and Johnny was one of the last people to speak to him.
Oh, Em, that's sad.
Floyd Collins inspired several pieces of work after this because he was so infamous at the time, and his story is apparently still a legend there. He even inspired a 90s Broadway musical.
What?
Which I did listen to the soundtrack last night, and it's Bananagrams.
No. I've heard of it.
Apparently he's also inspired books, films, and songs, which
folk
by
music,
the way,
they probably loved that shit.
It was like Kentucky
bluegrass,
old timey music. So in 1926, the song "The Death of Floyd Collins" came out right after he died, and it sold 3 million copies.
No,
in 1926, which was like
that?
It was obviously a band I'd never heard of. But if you type in "The Death of Floyd Collins," you can still hear it on YouTube. And these are the final lyrics of that song.
Oh my God.
Young people, take warning from Floyd Collins' fate, and get right with your maker before it is too late. It may not be a sand cave in which we find our tomb, but at the bar of judgment we too must meet our doom.
Jesus Christ.
And that is the story of the Mammoth Cave.
That was good. What a doozy.
That one, wow, we really delivered on the banter. Last time I really sucked the air out of the place with like that really dark story. So I'm glad I brought it back with a little livelier, even though like Floyd Collins really,
I can't believe he died. Story. I'm so sad.
I know, it's even eerier. I didn't want to tell you until after I showed you the picture of him.
Yeah, it's so creepy now to see the photo. It's like people could see him feet away almost. And oh God, that's tragic.
And in a moment of panic, if I were him and like now the cave-in just happened and I'm by myself, I don't know what I would have done, but I would have absolutely lost my mind being like I was so close and now I'm
that fear, like you can't be serious. Like I was like this close to getting out.
And also like all of a sudden like the fun times of people like having a carnival next to me, I'd be so livid being like they're having so much fun and like making a joke of this. Like
people are making money, people are taking photos, and oh my God.
I'd be like, do they even know? Were they having too much fun like at their carnival? They didn't even notice that this just happened to me. Am I trapped here for good now?
Also, like imagine being there that day. Like as a kid, like I'm on the Ferris wheel and then it's like, well, we've recovered his body. He's dead. Carnival's over, everybody.
Yeah. Like you just go home. Oh my God. But
I want to find like a postcard or something from that event.
I'm sure there's some. Hold on,
Wouldn't that be wild?
eBay.
Just like talk about a tchotchke.
Floyd Collins. You know, it's Floyd Collins. Souvenir. There's gotta be
Also, I
something.
don't know like why you couldn't remember who sang The Death of Floyd Collins in 1925, because obviously it was Fiddlin' John Carson and Vernon Dalhart.
Okay, see? Yeah, I did. I obviously that just slipped my mind.
What's wrong with you?
There are still a lot of postcards for purchase.
Yes.
A lot are just of his grave.
Oh dear. Okay.
And then there's another one that's titled "Crowd Gathers at Floyd Collins Entrapment at Sand Cave." So, if you'd like to purchase that. And then there's, oh my God, there's apparently the Rock literally used to have a photo op, and it's now a postcard, or it was a postcard then, and it's titled "The Rock That Trapped Floyd Collins," and it's a man just holding the rock smiling.
Ew.
It's a little too much. Oh my God, there's a postcard of the picture I sent you of him looking up at you.
Oh, okay. It's getting a little dark.
It's a little too dark.
I just meant of the carnival guys, not of the fucking...
Yeah, I think your best bet is going to be this picture here of the crowd showing up. Hang on. So
oh, God.
Hang on.
I'm telling you, humans never change. Like, this
never, ever.
If this happened today, it would be the exact same nonsense.
Crowd of spectators. Oh, you could see the hamburger cart for a nickel.
I told you it was a nickel. Wow. Yep. Look at that.
And then
it's crazy.
And then on the back of that postcard, it says, "When news of Floyd Collins' entrapment spread, crowds came to Sand Cave. Vendors set up to cater to them, selling hamburgers, balloons, illegal moonshine, and more. Automobiles were lined up and parked for over 4 miles in each direction on all roads in the vicinity leading to Sand Cave."
Holy shit.
Whew.
I guess word travels even back then.
I mean, if in such a small town with like the coolest thing going on is a cave, like I feel like when someone gets locked in the cave and one person is selling hamburgers nearby, like people are going to hear about it. Yeah. Anyway.
Whoa. And you're like, I got extra bathtub gin. Should I go and make a little profit?
Yeah, exactly. So I've got my moonshine bathtub moonshine. Yeah.
Wow. What a story.
What a story.
I gotta say, you knocked it out of the park.
I didn't even mean to. It just happened.
Even better, because you did. Yep. You nailed it.
Well, I'm unfortunately not excited to hear from you because last I recall...
Ring, ring. It's the cave phone. It's me, and you don't have a choice.
If we recall, the last time that we spoke was when you were telling me this awful story that you're now finishing from your part 2 series.
Does it help if I tell you that Tiffany, who was ignored by the authorities, this is like her redemption arc?
Oh, yes, because last we left off, people were like slut shaming her.
Oh yeah, I mean beyond.
She was literally like probably covered in blood and scream crying and traumatized, and they were like, well you asked for it
and had strangulation marks and was pregnant. Yeah.
I left fuming, Christine. I was so heated for the rest of the day. I was like, why do I feel so irritable? And I was like, ah! And it was
your microphone literally did that noise cancellation where when we get too loud, it like just mutes you, which is when I know that you are having a big feeling.
In case you missed it, everyone, I went, ah, but much louder and angrier.
I think they can hear it. It just like Zoom just decides I get to be cut off from the sound, which I'm not thankful for.
Well, it was just so infuriating, and so
yeah, I felt weird for several days after that. I mean, it's only a couple days after that, so I still feel weird, but I felt weird. I was like, I feel like I put everyone in a bad place, and I'm sorry about it. Yeah,
but that's just what you do best. So
it really is, which I'm trying to come to terms and come to grips with that, but it'll take me another couple years maybe. Mm-hmm. Okay, well, I got a little recap here, okay? So it's going to get worse before it gets better, and I'm sorry.
I'm going to trust the process, Kristen, because wow, you what a doozy.
Last week I really fucked us all up. So let's trust the process, even though I know it's hard to trust me right now, but
always actually.
You just always, especially now. So, quick recap, if you didn't listen to the last episode, folks, please do. If not, and you just want to live...
You're going to be so lost.
Yeah, which is like fine. You do you. It's none of my business. I'm just happy you're listening. But probably makes more sense the other way around. But here we go. A quick recap. Khalil Wheeler Weaver, who was also known as the Tagged Killer, which I have not given you context for, so we'll go over that today, was a notorious New Jersey serial killer and spree killer who was active for just several months in late 2016. He was only 20 years old, and he took several lives in that brief spree of murders. On August 31st, he murdered Robin Daphne Michelle West, and in the following months, he murdered Joanne Brown and attempted to murder Tiffany Taylor, who thankfully got away, but of course, as we've kind of touched on, was dismissed by authorities and not taken seriously, and they didn't even take her handcuffs off for an hour because they were like, well, you are a streetwalker, quote unquote, so why should we believe you? Through Joanne's friend, along with Tiffany's statement as a survivor, police now have Khalil's name, phone number, home address, Facebook account, and license plate number. They know that he was the last person to be seen with Joanne before she went missing, and they have a statement from Tiffany, the survivor, that he raped her and attempted to murder her, but nothing has been done. So that's where we left off, and that is why Em was in a tizzy, so to speak.
We left in a great spot. Mm-hmm. Yep, everyone's satiated from that story.
Yeah, I remember it well. So, until now, Khalil has been targeting women who tragically, not only investigators, but the media, society, has just dismissed pretty summarily. Like, even the headlines said, hooker, prostitute, instead of, talking about them as people, just kind of lumped them together and dismissed them. Mm-hmm. All three of his victims so far have been sex workers, and all three were Black women, which, of course, increased their vulnerability to violent crime and, of course, increased their I don't know what the right word is, dehumanization by the rest of the world.
It's a good word.
There, it just popped right out of me, So Khalil, at this point, as you can imagine, is feeling invincible because he's just not doing jack all to cover his tracks, and yet...
I mean, okay, again, quick recap. People know what he looks like, his address, his Facebook, his license plate number, the car that he's currently in, or was just in, right? The Lincoln sedan. Uh-huh. He is, there's nothing left to know about him. You could call him on she literally has his phone number. You could call him and be like, you're arrested, and nobody cares.
Like, first, middle, last name, whole shebang. Nothing to do about it. So other than the original fire, which had destroyed a lot of evidence, he had really done nothing to cover his tracks. He didn't even use a burner phone or cover his license plate, as you just touched on. Tiffany was alive to tell her whole story, and yet nobody had come knocking, so he felt invincible.
Which this is, like, when we talk about, like, narcissists and murder and, like, how they have, like, this, like, cockiness and this air to them and this arrogance of, like, haha, look what I can get away with.
You'll never catch me.
There's nothing left for him to test. Like, he is just getting away with it. Like,
he must be shocked. He must have been waiting for somebody to show up, some sirens out the window.
Yeah, he could go up to a cop right now, smack him on the face, and be like, "I'm guilty," and they'd go, "Have a nice day, sir." Like, it's so beyond infuriating. And while they're telling all the victims that they asked for this, I can't even think about it.
Yeah, it's infuriating. So he is just like living large on the lam, not even on the lam because nobody's looking for him.
He's just gently strolling by, holding the cop's hand.
Gently strolling by.
Wine and dining him.
So he is feeling invincible, but the good news for us here is that Khalil is about to do himself in once and for all.
Thank God.
But of course, that will come at a cost. So in November, he chose a new target named Sarah Butler. Now, Sarah grew up in Montclair, which was a 12-minute drive from Orange, New Jersey. Part of Montclair was wealthy with high income and expensive houses, and then nearby there were people, of course, living in abject poverty, so you had this duality there. For Sarah's family, money could be tight, but they generally lived in comfort. They lived a pretty standard middle-class life. Her mother was an immigrant from Jamaica who worked as a nanny for wealthier families, and her father watched the kids during the day and then worked evenings as a bartender at a country club. Sarah
Okay.
herself was a vibrant, happy girl. When she was 5, she enrolled in her first dance class and discovered an inherent talent and passion for dance. She did ballet, jazz, African dance, and more. And she didn't just love to dance, she actually worked extremely hard at it and was very, very talented. As a teenager, her dance team actually took third place at the Apollo Theater's famous amateur night.
Damn.
Yeah, like really
Wow.
kicked ass at it. And as a teenager, she and her sisters all enjoyed working as YMCA lifeguards. She worked actually several jobs to try and save up for a new car because she was starting college in Jersey City, which was 15 miles away from home.
Mm-hmm.
And she was the first of her family to ever go to college. So this was a really big deal. And she worked really hard to save up money for a car so she could commute. And her sophomore year, she thought, you know what, why not just cut the commute? I'm going to move into the dorms and live on campus. So Sarah had had plenty of friends back in Montclair, but, you know, starting college now, she is struggling the way a lot of us did, just like, you know,
Adjustment period.
Yeah, like adjusting, growing pains, like trying to find your group and feeling lonely, that kind of thing. And she was homesick, but she was really determined because she had worked so hard to get to this point. So she joined an app called Tagged. Have you heard of this?
Oh, no, I haven't, but now I understand why he's called the tagged killer.
Yeah, I
But
hadn't heard of it either. And I
no.
feel old because apparently this is what people were using in college in like, God, what year was it at this point? It was like after we were in college. So I think we were too old to know what it was. I think it was like the 2016-ish
So
time.
there's a Craigslist killer, there's a tagged killer. Is there anything else? Like is there
I
a
believe there's
Tinder
a
killer?
MySpace killer. There's Grindr for sure. Yeah, I think every app unfortunately has a
Ugh,
namesake
gross.
murderer, which is really unpleasant to think about. So she joins this app called Tagged, where people would go to find friends, find dates, find hookups, just the usual. And it's there where she connected with someone using the screen name Lil Yacht Rock.
Oh, green flag.
Yeah, indeed. Does he like to go spelunking and is his name Lil Yacht Rock? Then I think you've got a winner. Yeah.
Sadly, I think just on the name alone, I think you would have gone on a date with him.
Honestly, that's sad but true. Yes.
I do think as an adult, though, you would just like try to find him on social media and creep him.
What the hell?
Yeah, you would somehow be the creepy one in this dynamic now.
I would turn it around really fast and be like, sorry, this was your thing and I've made it weird. Yes. So Lil Yacht Rock was his username. Really dumb, but whatever. Whatever it was going to be, I was going to call it dumb. Of course, this was Khalil Wheeler Weaver. So pretty much right off the bat, he asked Sarah if she'd have sex with him for money. And
jeez.
yeah, like really just hitting it hard from the first conversation. And this was out of character for her. She, was working multiple jobs. She didn't she had other options for money. So she wasn't, as maybe strapped for cash as some of the other victims had been.
Mm-hmm.
And she'd never done this before, but it was sort of a time. I mean, you think about college, it's like, people do risky things. People are experimenting.
No judgment, but also interesting on his part that he had to request for money. He could have just taken on a fucking date and tried to sleep with her.
So he this is what he did. He would tell people tell women he would pay them. And I don't know, part of me wonders there's multiple theories I have in my dumb little brain, but one of them is maybe he needed them to be getting paid for sex to be dismissed by him as deserving of this crime. You know what I mean? Like he only killed sex workers. So maybe he needed that to kind of warrant in his own mind, she's getting paid for sex. I can kill her. It doesn't matter. The guilt isn't there.
Or maybe if she just thought you were charming and wanted to sleep with you, he can't find you that repulsive.
That's what I mean. Yeah, he needed that to warrant.
He needs to
reaction.
Feel. This is not how I feel about sex work, by the way. But are we saying that maybe he needed to feel dirty about being used for money to hate them?
Or maybe almost he needed to see them like how the media did, like as less than a human, like not just a nice woman you're taking on a date, but somebody who's like lower than low in his mind, or like less deserving,
scum of the earth,
less deserving of fair treatment. It's almost like he needed that justification. That's the word I was trying to come up with. Like he needed to justify it by, that's one of my, again, this is a theory, but and my other theory is, you know, I feel like if you're meeting up with someone and you're getting paid to have sex with them, you're less likely, at least in my mind, to like tell all your friends and family about this, you know?
Good point.
It's like a more like illicit situation and like less likely to, but I mean, at the same time, he's not really covering his tracks anyway. But, you know, I'm not sure what the motive was there, but those are some possibilities, I guess.
No, that's a good point. I think that has to be part of it. That like I won't be told on if they feel bad about it. But also people are literally telling on him left and right and he's fine.
I know, exactly. So it's almost like
whatever.
What's the point? But yeah, that's kind of what my guess is. But either whatever the reason, you know, she was intrigued, and she, you know, students especially starting college, feeling alone, isolated, trying to figure themselves out, make an identity for themselves. You do dumb shit. Okay. We've said it a million times. The dumb shit I have done in my life. Like,
we've all been there. We're just two of the lucky ones who didn't.
Yeah, like, exactly. I just feel really fortunate that something worse didn't happen, you know?
We survived it, but others don't.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's really, really unfortunate. But so she agreed to it for the price of $500. And this part, I already have goose cam. She made a joke that a lot of us probably would have made. She texted him, "You're not a serial killer, right? LMAO."
Yep.
And it's like, oh, it's so chilling. Like, if only she knew just even the half of it, you know? I mean,
well, because all of us have texted that at least once, and like,
right.
At least everyone I know has.
At least I have, yeah.
But like, it's because you still think, even though you're like protecting yourself, there's no way I'm the one.
It's ridiculous to think like, oh, I'm talking to a serial killer. The concept is beyond. I mean, even to me as a true crime podcaster, I'd be like, you're being crazy. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
it's just, it would be out of left field. But she had some inkling that this was, you know, a little iffy. And she texted, "You're not a serial killer, right? LMAO." And of course, it was such a distant possibility that it never occurred to her he actually was a serial killer at this point. So her first meeting with him, she actually bailed, and she apologized through the app, saying she felt like an ass, but she was too nervous. He told her, "I'm a really cool guy once you get to know me."
Oh, wow.
Fucker.
Well, say it with me. Green flag. Green flag.
Seriously. That's a great point. I hadn't even thought of that. But yeah, it's also very unsettling.
It's wild that her gut feeling was right.
I know. And for the amount of times we've said on the show, like, you know, trust your gut. And like so many of us, every one of us has ignored our gut and then looked back and gone, oops, you know?
Yeah.
It's just, we're lucky that it didn't turn out this badly. So on November 22nd, only a week after the whole Tiffany thing went down, where she survived, is literally a week later, he's at it again. Sarah agrees to meet up, and this time she's feeling more certain, more independent, more courageous. And it was the first day of Thanksgiving break, so her mom had driven to the city to pick her up and bring her home. That evening, Sarah asked to borrow the minivan and run an errand. So this is where I'm kind of saying, like, she's clearly not saying, like, maybe if he had invited her on a date, she'd say, "Oh, I'm going on a date with this guy. This is his name." But since this is like, you know, paid sex, she tells her mom, "Oh, I'm just running an errand," and doesn't say where she's going and keeps it kind of secret. So she picked Khalil up, get this, at the same vacant house on Highland Avenue where Joanne's body was still inside, laying undiscovered.
Oh my God.
So her body had not even been found yet. Her friends are, in the meantime, looking for her, and her body's in there. And he says, "Pick me up at this location." Like, he's just loving this fucking game, this whole thing.
Oh my God. Oh God.
It's so sick. It's sick. So they first went to a 7-Eleven so Khalil could buy condoms, romantic, and then to Eagle Rock Reservation, which was a county park with a view of the New York City skyline. And there He strangled Sarah to death with a pair of sweatpants and left her body under some sticks and leaves, then took her mom's minivan and fled the scene and left her there with her pants still around her own neck.
Oh my God.
It's horrific. When Sarah didn't return home from her errand by 8 p.m., as she had planned, her oldest sister, Basanya Daly, started texting Sarah's friends, and none of them had seen her or knew where she was. And in the morning, their mom called her and got voicemail. And pretty immediately, they were like, something is wrong, because if Sarah is even running late from the bank or the grocery store, she will text us or she will answer her phone. Like, she doesn't just go away and not come home. So they knew pretty immediately something was wrong. It was 3 days later that one of Basanya's friends found her mom's minivan dumped behind an old factory. And also, it's just occurring to me, November 25th. So this was, like we said, Thanksgiving break. So, I mean, just think like the whole Thanksgiving break, her family is just wondering where she is.
Oh, fuck.
It didn't even occur to me that they had to spend Thanksgiving this way, like just looking for her. So they found the minivan behind an old factory. It was 4 miles from where Sarah lived, but only 6 blocks from Khalil's house.
Of course. Wasn't it also 6 blocks last time? It's like he's got a perfect radius.
He has. It's like when you watch those crime shows and they do like a geo circle tagging where it could be. Yeah, I mean, he's
sort
literally
of mapping.
Like mapping himself exactly. And I'm gonna bring this up later too, but he like perfectly checks the boxes for like all the shit that's, well, I'll tell you, but like he brought his phone, for example, to every crime scene. So like they're ding, 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 ding. Like there's no hiding anything. So police arrive at the scene, and the women in Sarah's life, her sister and best friend and mom, of course, at this point know something terrible must have happened. They find on the floor of the minivan Sarah's red weave that she was wearing the night of her disappearance. And when Basanya and Lamia Brown, who's one of Sarah's friends, saw this, they knew it was foul play. They were like, somebody has hurt her. They couldn't sit around and wait for an investigation. So they, the friends and sister, leapt into action themselves. So this is where we turn into like kick-ass territory.
Good for them.
I know.
They're like, we'll fucking handle it.
We'll handle it. So Basanya, Lamia, and Sarah's friend Samantha Rivera all gathered at the Butler family home, and one of them, thankfully, knew the login to Sarah's laptop. So they got on her laptop, and they looked around for clues, and they found Sarah's tagged account and her messages with Khalil. And they were shocked when they saw that she was getting into sex work, but they also weren't, like, judging her. They just said, okay, well, it looks like Lil Yacht Rock is the one we need to find. Like, clearly he's involved somehow.
I love how it took, like, just curious, like, driven minds on this 5 minutes.
Seriously. Like, minutes. They just hop on the computer and they're like, well, we know who it is. So Samantha, get this. This has you and me written all over it. Made a fake account and reached out to Lil Yacht Rock to be like, hey, what's up? And they messaged back and forth with him for several days while the police are in the background looking for Sarah. So the women were actually at the police station giving statements one night when Khalil messaged Samantha on Tagged and asked her to meet up. So she's literally turns the phone to the police and is like, oh my God, he wants to meet with me.
Is she about to go undercover?
Yeah, basically. This is nuts. Like, I mean, it really sounds like a episode of Criminal Minds. So even with Tagged, to me, I know I'm probably just not cool, but to me, Tagged sounds like a fake account, like a fake social media that television writers made up, you know?
Yeah. Oh, it sounds like wolf.com.
Yes, it does. Oh, I hope there's not a wolf.com serial killer. That would really bum me out.
His name is BJ Novak, I think, or something.
Yeah, well, he went to jail, I guess.
Yeah.
Not him. His character.
Yeah,
before I get like some, I don't know, Writers Guild lawyers coming after me. I don't know how that works. Okay, so she's like, this guy wants to meet up with me, and they're like, okay, all right, we're mobilizing people. So the way he had reached out to her and asked for sex and offered money, it was almost an identical message to the one he had sent last to Sarah, which was like really chilling. It was basically like a copy paste.
Mm.
He offered cash. He said he was in a hurry to meet up, and he put the pressure on her. She agreed to pick him up at a nearby Panera Bread.
Mm.
She told him she was at home with the baby and doing her makeup, so she would have to wait a little bit for someone to come watch the baby before she could come out. So the women went inside and are telling the police this story, and the detectives are like, okay, keep him interested, like keep him talking. And 2 detectives, meanwhile, went to meet Khalil while the women remained at the station.
Oh, okay.
So the report journal said, quote, he believed he was hunting his next victim. In reality, the women were hunting him.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the tagline for our next blockbuster hit. So when detectives arrived, Khalil was so cool, calm, collected. Fucking cucumber, this guy. He is polite. He's cooperative. He's like, hey, what's going on? To the cops, like just playing these fucking mind games. He told them, yes, he had gone a date with a woman named Sarah the other night, but when he dropped her off at home, she was alive and well. And then he went to a friend's house, so he has no idea what happened. And he's so chill, and he pulls up a friend's number, and the police call the friend, and the friend's like, yeah, he was with me. So they have this alibi for him. They don't have Sarah's body yet. They can't hold him for anything. So they're like, well, shit, we got to let him go. And since they already missed the boat when Tiffany told them what happened, it was too late for that. So now they're like kind of shit out of luck. Like they're like, well, I hope these women can draw him in and lure him in so that we can get him, because they don't really have anything on him. So although the women in Sarah's life knew something was terribly wrong, it still seemed like the police were not going to say it was foul play until they found her body and figured out what had actually happened. So they really had no choice but to let Khalil go. Not long afterward, the investigators were able to triangulate the last known location of Sarah's cell phone, and they finally were able to locate her body. So now they're like, all right, we officially have a murder on our hands. There's no question about it. Khalil is our prime suspect. And they once again went to the friend, the alibi, who had said, oh, he was with me. And apparently the friend basically said, look, he told me to cover for him if the police came knocking, but I had no idea this was about murder. I was absolutely not with him that day. I just thought this was like a minor thing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Murder, like, I'm not participating in this cover up.
Yeah. As Taylor Swift said, I wish to be excluded from the narrative.
Precisely. He's like, this is not part of what I planned for.
Yeah.
I would say, if it were like a drug thing, maybe, but murder, no. So he's like, that alibi is a lie. He was not with me. So finally, December 13th, 2016, police arrested Khalil under suspicion of murder. Finally. In the meantime, contractors repairing the empty home on Highland Avenue had discovered Joanne Brown's body, and they were starting to piece this whole story together. Then Tiffany happened to see a headline of Khalil's arrest in the paper, and she was like, well, the police ignored me last time, so I'm going to go to the Essex County prosecutor instead.
Damn. I fucking love this.
I know. So she goes straight to the prosecutor, who said her persistence was unbelievably courageous. So police spent 3 years putting together a case against Khalil, connecting Joanne's and Robin's murders and Tiffany's attack to Sarah. Tiffany, of course, ended up the star witness of the case. Her day-long testimony was crucial for tying together Khalil's MO, the way he targeted sex workers, the way he strangled people, the way he used duct tape. Like, she had all the answers for that because she had survived it. Mm-hmm. Khalil had also been incredibly careless, as we kind of already alluded to, because he could be. He carried his phone with him at all times to every murder, didn't have a burner. His phone location data put him at the scene of every single crime and showed that after he lit the fire at the first house, he came back and watched it burning with a crowd of people.
Ew. So he came back to the crime scene. Hey.
And don't they say that a lot about arsonists, that like part of the thrill, and I'm not saying he's an arsonist. I mean, he clearly is an arsonist to an extent. I just don't know how much of that is like pathological versus he was just, but they say like people who commit arson often come back to watch their work, so to speak.
Yeah. Wow. And also, I mean, we already talked about this a little bit, but like just the full cockiness of getting away with it. But it's almost like beyond cockiness and just like because of the previous stories where he actually was getting away with it, it takes away from me saying this. But when he was doing all this and not, turning off his phone, he was just so like brazenly killing. It's like, how did you think you weren't going to get caught?
Yeah. Yeah. And it's like he
I don't know.
shouldn't have thought it, but then he didn't, like you're saying. So it's a weird paradox. It's like,
well, he didn't get caught, so
but he didn't, right? But so it's.
Well, like, how do you go into that thinking like I don't need a plan? Like, it's still.
I wonder if that's why it was like spree killing, because he was like, well, it's gonna end eventually. You know what I mean? Like, I'll just get it out of my system, so to speak, and like just go on a rampage because I'm gonna get caught. I don't know. It's disturbing. I mean, thankfully, at least the fact that he was so brazen helped put him in prison during the trial. I mean, I didn't, unfortunately, stop him from killing multiple other people. But at least it helped them gather evidence. But yeah, it's just really sad. So he was at the county park where Sarah's body was found at the same time Sarah's phone was pinging its location. He was at the Highland Avenue house where they found Joanne. He was on the side of the road where Tiffany was attacked. Basically, every single spot was neatly recorded in his phone, which is kind of what I was trying to say when I said, like, oh, he was basically doing the geo triangulation that you see on TV. Like, the killer lives within this radius. Like, he's literally just building out this exact map.
Yep.
And it was just creepy how like neatly everything lined up. So prosecutors had the text he sent to Sarah untagged, the calls to Joanne's friend's phone where he was just breathing on the other end of the line.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. All of his conversations with Tiffany. And they found out Khalil also had extra phones at home. And he used these phones because apparently he thought, I can take my phone with me to the crime scenes, but I don't want to Google anything incriminating on this phone. I'll Google the incriminating things on my other phones that are still at home. So I don't know how that really saves you any. But he Googled shit like which chemical can be used to kill a human and how to access date rape drugs.
Oh, for fuck's sake.
Great. So despite all of this, Khalil maintained his innocence.
What?
Yeah, he said he was being framed by the county.
What?
Lunatic.
What?
Like, it's sheer lunacy.
How did he get like, what? The cops just went, that's a good enough reason. Like, how did he just walked away? He was like,
oh, no. Sorry. I meant he maintained his innocence. Like he kept saying he was innocent. Nobody thought he was innocent. Nobody believed him.
Oh my God. Okay.
Sorry. God, no. No. This is
I was like, Christine,
arc.
don't do this. Don't do
this.
this.
No. He just said, I don't know. I'm being framed. And everyone was like, you're a fucking idiot.
Okay.
You're not being framed. But he maintained that he had done nothing wrong. He was eerily cool, like eerily chill. But like, how on earth would anybody be able to discount the evidence and witness statements, especially Tiffany's firsthand account, and saying, I see the man who tried to kill me and who raped me, and he's right there. Like, how could you dismiss that?
No need for a lineup. I will tell you exactly who he is.
Exactly. She was really understandably disturbed by Khalil's not guilty plea and his lack of emotion. And she said to the prosecutor and judge, I hope you don't show him any remorse because he's not showing any remorse. In her testimony, Tiffany highlighted the tragedy of her treatment by the Elizabeth Police Department, saying, if the police had believed me, Sarah Butler would still be alive. So I'm really glad she got the chance to publicly say that.
Yeah.
When the police who responded to Tiffany's call took the stand, they were asked if they believed Tiffany at the time. One of them said, I mean, no, not really.
Well, Kel Surprise. Yeah, we all figured that
out. Yeah. Ultimately, Tiffany said it was anger that got her on the stand despite her fear. And she said she testified because she wanted Khalil to see her and know she was part of his undoing, which I love that, like, redemption arc. Tiffany said later, people keep telling me I'm a hero. I was just mad. I wanted something to happen to him for what he did to me.
Yeah.
Understandable. During the trial, Sarah Butler's friends and family spoke as well, and county prosecutors said targeting Sarah was Khalil's fatal mistake. Sarah's mother said, "He messed with the wrong girl. Sarah was well loved. She was such a good girl. I know my daughter and the love and care she grew up with. She loved to dance. She loved to swim. She loved kids. It's so sad that people didn't get to know her." It just makes me really sad. On December 19th, 2019, Khalil Wheeler Weaver was sentenced to multiple life sentences for the murders of Robin West, Joanne Brown, and Sarah Butler, the attempted murder of Tiffany Taylor, desecration of human remains, and aggravated arson.
Wow.
At his sentencing, completely calm and collected, Khalil said, "Oh, this makes me ill." He said, "My heart goes out to the families. However, I was not the person who committed these crimes." It's like, give it up, bud. Give it a fucking rest.
It's just gross because it's just the last. I don't. Yeah, it's just like the last.
Like, I don't want your sympathy, you asshole.
I just want you to own it once.
Yeah,
just for
fucking
closure.
own it.
Just for the closure.
So Tiffany and his other victims' families were left behind to pick up the pieces of their lives. Sarah's younger sister danced a tribute to her sister to the Hall & Oates song "Sarah Smile." Makes me sad. Sarah's mom says she always feels Sarah with her. Tiffany Taylor, who's now raising 2 daughters of her own, often feels afraid. She finds herself panicking in stairwells and other secluded public places. She said she sometimes feels like Khalil still won because of the effect he's had on her. And Khalil's story was not over. So there's more.
How?
I know. In April of 2019, when Khalil had already been in prison awaiting trial for several years, employees at an Orange funeral home found human remains in the empty carriage house they used for storage. 6 months later, in November 2019, when Khalil was on trial for 3 other murders, authorities identified the remains as 15-year-old Mawa Doumbia, who went missing October 7th, 2016, in the midst of Khalil's killing spree.
So she wasn't even noticed.
She wasn't even, I guess, linked to any of this.
That's so sad.
Investigators once again were able to follow Khalil's phone data on the night of Mawa's disappearance to her house and to the location where they recovered her remains. And then he used Google Maps to look at her home and then find a nearby property where he could take her body.
Wow. So, like, he really is on the fly doing this shit. Like,
he's just winging it.
That answers my question then to, like, how did you not plan this? And he just really didn't fucking go with the plan.
He's just fucking around and it worked.
Which also makes it, like, extra gross to, like, this was just, like, an impulsive thing he did from time. Like it was like a hobby. Like, I'm going to go skateboarding.
I'm just going to try this. Yeah.
I'm just going to murder somebody and just see kind of where the day takes me.
And then do it over and over again just because it worked the first time. In October of 2022, so several months ago now, like almost 6 months ago, already serving 3 life sentences, another murder charge was officially brought against Khalil for Mawa's killing. And at that time, police said they were looking into yet another case that might be linked to Khalil. But we don't have that information yet. So that's how new this is, this new
So
victim.
He could have been doing this for a lot longer than we thought.
Well, no, they think it's that same time span. There's just more people. Yeah.
And so he was still doing it, like, much more frequently than we thought.
Yes, that's what they think. And to think that after Tiffany, you know, you'd think you'd be afraid after Tiffany survives,
right?
And sees you, and then within a week he has murdered his next victim. Like, that's how close together they are. Well,
there it is again with the cockiness. I mean, like why wouldn't you stop if you're just like, oh, someone literally pointed at me red-handed and I got away with it. And then there were several other murders after that where, like, I just got away with it. So just, if you already
quit while you're fucking ahead. Nope.
If you already have that, like, heightened ego and, like, every single time you are just not even trying to cover it up and you are just like, you're just so guilty and, like, not even I can see why he would have, like, the cocky gene of, like, well, obviously no one's gonna get me because no one's ever gotten me, and I wasn't even trying.
Yeah,
you know,
it feels like easy. I bet you just go home at night and go to bed, and nobody knocks on the door.
At which point, like, fucking, like, find a new hobby. Like, how is this fun anymore? If, like, you're not even, like, I don't know. I imagine there's got to be some fun element to, like, being, like, trying to evade the
Well,
police,
there's
but they're not
probably
even looking
some
for
thrill
you.
to just getting away with it over and over.
That's true. Yeah, it's just so gross.
It's disgusting. So, yeah, like we said, we think there are other victims that just haven't even been released yet. So, over the next few years, we might see several more murders attributed to him. In the end, the county prosecutor and media outlets believed the true heroes of the story were the women, of course, who refused to back down. Tiffany Taylor, who was cast aside by police after living pretty much an unspeakable horror, but then didn't give up and continued to testify despite her fear and help bring him down. Sarah's friends and family, who jumped into action and risked their own lives concerning Khalil. Joanne Brown's and Robin's friends, who took down details like Khalil's phone number, his license plate, and who spoke up when nothing happened. These women basically from the start were fighting for their friends, their sisters. They were looking for them when nobody else was. And when the case closed, Assistant Prosecutor Adam Wells said Sarah's friends and family are the heroes of this case. And that is the story of Khalil Wheeler Weaver, part 2.
Well, I'm glad he at least got put away. There's really no other good part to it.
I know.
I do appreciate that all those women were like, you know what? Fuck the authorities. I'll handle it. And then did.
Just handled it. Yeah.
Just handled it. Wow. Well, I appreciate the redemption arc, Christine, because you really had me in a twist last time.
Sorry.
But yeah. Wow. I can't believe. And it's so recent.
Yeah. And I feel like it kind of feels a little, I don't know if ick is the right word, but there's something about the media praising these women, and I'm like, yeah, this is the same media who called them hookers and said whatever. You know what I mean?
Excellent point.
Part of me is just okay, well,
it's grody.
Yeah, it's grody. It feels icky. I'm like,
and it feels fickle in some way.
Yeah,
of
fair weather fucking when it's a feel good story, all of a sudden you want to be part of it again.
That's a great point of how dare you champion women when it's convenient.
Yeah. When it makes a good headline. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I don't know. That part just kind of makes me feel weird. But that's the story, Emmethy, my friend.
Thank you. Emmethy appreciates it. Man, we had quite a day today. Our banter was a lot, but I'm really interested. I
revealed a lot about my past, I think, with some of this. I mean,
we said a lot of things. Maybe
1, 2, 3 stress Sesame Street.
Maybe we regret saying some things, but maybe we don't.
Too late. Because I will immediately have forgotten that I said it. And then someone on Instagram will be like, oh, Antimobile. And I'll be like, how do you know that?
Yeah, one day someone's going to send us Grover Muppets. I'm going to be like, what is this about?
I'm going to be like, I'm really into it, but why? I don't know.
I'm scared, but I'm okay.
But I'm all right.
Man, well, I'm sure you're going to find yourself in a downward spiral now on postcards on eBay.
Oh yeah.
After Floyd Collins.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I don't know what else to say, man. We got our after chat we're gonna do. We've got I'll see you in a couple days, which makes my stomach want to churn, but whatever. Anything else? Any fun factoids to end on?
Just go find yourself in a giant Adirondack chair. Take a rest.
Man, if anyone wants to let me know where I can find the nearest,
there's probably one
chair
near you. There has to be by a beach somewhere.
One of my secret goals is to get a picture in every single one that exists. Because
okay,
I'm not kidding. Every time I see
know
one,
you're not. Trust me. Whew. I'm aware.
I would like to own one, really. So if anyone knows the way to get about that, also I would.
Etsy, they're $1,500. So you better just get a bigger property so that you can fit this thing.
Nah, the troll hole will just be where I leave the chair.
I don't think it's gonna fit.
I'll disassemble it, then reassemble it in here. You'll see.
I'll make
You'll
it
see.
fit. They'll all see.
They'll all see, and
that's
why we drink.